Chief Chavies and Lieutenant Beltran in charge of our homicide sections to give you an update on a couple of cases. I'm going to turn it right over to them.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you all for being here. All right, so thank you guys for being here. My name is Frederick Chavies. I'm the Deputy Chief of the Oakland Police Department's Bureau of Investigations. In 2024, the City of Oakland investigated 86 homicides, the lowest number since the pandemic. We owe a debt of gratitude to our community for their assistance, as we had a clearance rate of nearly 70% last year as well. We also could not have done the work without to reduce the homicides and shootings overall without the tremendous help from our partners at DVP, the Department of Violence Prevention, as well as our ceasefire partners, especially Faith in Action, East Bay, as well as the diligent efforts of our investigators and our street teams. I'm going to introduce today Homicide Commander Lieutenant Gloria Beltran to talk about two cases from December of 2024 that have been solved. And then I'm going to close with a burglary update and a plea to the community before taking any questions. Thank you so much.
Good afternoon, everyone. I am Gloria Beltran. I'm the lieutenant for the homicide section in our criminal investigations division. And I just want to provide two updates on two of the homicides that we had last year. On December 20th, at approximately 9 p.m., OPD officers were responding to a ShotSpotter activation and 911 calls to the 300 block of Fairmount Avenue. When they arrived, they located two victims suffering from gunshot wounds. Unfortunately, both victims were deceased when the officers arrived. With the help of the community and the work of our investigators, they were able to develop enough leads to identify a suspect, Tommy Ramsey, who on January 15th was arrested in connection to the double homicide. He has since been charged with 2 counts of homicide. We then had another homicide on December 26th. At around 4 p.m., OPD officers responded to the 1700 block of 14th Avenue to report of a shooting. When they arrived, they located the victim, Ponciano Tula Bernal, who was suffering from gunshot wounds. Officers learned through their investigation that earlier in the day, Ponciano's son had been robbed of his scooter. And when the Ponciano and his son confronted the suspects, one of the suspects fired at Ponciano, striking him and killing him. With the help of the community and the work of our investigators, we were able to identify 3 suspects that were involved in both incidents. All 3 were juveniles, and on January 1st, we arrested a 15-year-old juvenile who has since been charged with the murder of Ponciano and his involvement in the robbery. On January 15th, we located the 2 additional juveniles, a 13-year-old and an 11-year-old, who were arrested for their connection in the robbery. The 13-year-old has since been charged with the robbery, and the 11-year-old, due to age, has not been charged with any crimes. And that's all I have for those 2 homicides. I'll take any questions if you have any.
The situation where somebody dies over confronting a scooter, that seems to be pretty tragic. How were you guys able to track down these young kids? Was it help with the school or just normal police work?
Yeah, it's a very unfortunate situation that these juveniles were out there involved in these crimes, and unfortunately, like you said, it's over property. We were able to identify the suspects with the help of the community. That gave us our first lead. We've received a lot of phone calls, and we also reviewed a lot of video surveillance. And so with partners, other law enforcement partners, we were able to identify the suspects.
Just to clarify, the 15-year-old, was that the person suspected of actually pulling the trigger as well?
Yes, correct.
What was this alleged suspected involvement with the 11-year-old?
The 11-year-old was involved in the robbery of the scooter earlier in the day.
And just to clarify, the 13-year-old was only charged with robbery, correct?
Correct.
And could you, as
So it's unfortunate that we even have to have this conversation with involving an 11-year-old, but we actually don't do the charging. That's up to the district attorney's office. So what we do is we gather the facts. Once we identify a suspect, we go out and arrest the suspect and then present the case for charging. And due to age, they have decided that they weren't going to charge the 11-year-old with any crimes.
And just for clarification, the father and son went to the alleged suspect. So the father spoke to this 15-year-old or the 15-year-old's parent, or why did the 15-year-old then shoot the man?
So to give a little bit more background, both the suspects and the victims live in the same area. So the victim saw the suspects, went and asked for his property back to the suspects, and then that's when the shooting occurred.
What escalated that it went to a fatal shooting? He was just trying to get his property back. How did that, do you guys know?
We are still, it's been charged, but the case hasn't gone to court yet, so there are details of it that we are going to withhold to protect the integrity of the investigation.
Just to clarify as well, I should ask her the 13-year-old, I guess that person was also involved in the suspected robbery as well as the 15-year-old, both of them.
All three suspects were involved in the robbery. Yes.
We're going to move on to the next case. DC Chavis.
Just wanted to provide an update on a case that occurred, a couple of burglaries that occurred on January 20th of this year. The burglaries occurred, the residential burglaries that occurred along the Highway 13 corridor on January 22nd. Officers located the suspect vehicle involved in those burglaries and attempted to detain the individual in the vehicle. Upon the effectuation of the enforcement stop, the suspect rammed multiple police cars, injuring 2 sergeants of police before evading. Officers were able to find a local business along Piedmont Avenue that the individual was attempting to pawn or sell some of the lost items. Those items were recovered. A few days later, on January 26th, the individual was arrested in a neighboring city. We're going to be providing a photograph of some additional lost items, and we're asking our community to take a look at the photograph, and if any of these items were lost from burglaries from your home or your vehicle, we ask that you come forward. We'd like to return the items to their rightful owners.
Can you clarify just the date when the burglaries occurred, when officers located the suspect's vehicle, and when the suspect was arrested?
So January 20th, there were multiple burglaries that occurred that day. On January 22nd, officers located the individual, Mr. Michael Shea, who, as it happens, was actually released on his own recognizance for prior robberies and auto thefts as well. They attempted to detain the individual who rammed the officer's cars on the 22nd, and then on the 26th of January, he was taken into custody.
So you started by saying in 2024 you had 86 homicides and a 70% clearance rate. Can you explain, the clearance rate for solving crimes?
It's the clearance rate for actually so the way that the Oakland Police Department clears homicide cases is with a charged case, and so again, it's one of the highest clearance rates that we've had in recent years, and again, we attribute that in multiple parts. I think that when you have a reduced number, it gives our investigators an opportunity to do a more thorough investigation. I also, it goes without saying that our community stepped up big time for us in providing information in a number of the incidents that we had, and we also have developed, we put together and built a stronger partnership with the Department of Violence Prevention so that we were able to communicate with individuals that we believed could possibly be involved in violent crime, and we were able to try to get ahead of retaliatory shootings before they occurred.
So just so I understand correctly, of the 86 homicides, 70% were solved, or?
Nearly 70%, 68%.
When you're talking about just kind of being ahead of it, working with DVPI
ceasefire strategy is played a big role. The community also played a big role. I think the ceasefire strategy is just one component. I know that it's the City of Oakland's crime fighting strategy, but it's just one component, right? And all of these facets have to be functioning in order for us to have success.
So obviously, much lower number of homicides last year. This year, I believe the county's 12 homicides, compared to 9 at this point last year. Do you have any thoughts about why we might be seeing that tick up a little bit, and are you concerned that perhaps maybe some backsliding there?
So we're definitely concerned. We are definitely concerned with the amount that we saw to close the year, as well as to start this year. We are doing everything that we can to get ahead of any would-be violence. I know that at the end of the year and to begin this year, we saw some violence in our city from individuals that didn't live in our city. We've had some unique situations this year where we've had a homicide at a sideshow. We've had a number of these homicides haven't been charged by the district attorney's office as deemed justifiable, given the personal disputes or conflicts between both the victims and the suspects. We've also had a number of homicides that have occurred as a part of whether it be auto theft rings or homeless encampment related. And so wrapping our arcs, so obviously our ceasefire strategy deals with group and gang violence, right? And so we are expanding that to kind of face some of the ills, if you will, of our society as it stands now.
Just real quick, yesterday, also last week, we've seen a number of these ram and rod incidents.
Yes.
We spoke to some small business owners from the Yemeni community, and surveillance video, these guys just pushing in. Some of them don't have insurance. They're taking matters into their own hands. One of the business owners we spoke to, so he now has a gun. He actually shot back at some of the suspects. I know you guys can't be everywhere, but can you talk about why we're, what we're, I don't know if it's an increase in these ram and rod situations, but how are you guys handling it?
We have seen an uptick in them. We have also seen a reduction in our numbers, and so we're trying to leverage technology in order to be more effective in our community. But I am hoping that I can provide you with an update real soon on some of these, I think you call them ram and rob, but what we're seeing, these forcible burglaries where individuals are carjacking vehicles and then utilizing those vehicles as an instrument to break into businesses. We are investigating those diligently, and I hope to provide an update with you soon. I ask that anyone who may have information about it or may know of even anyone in their community or unfortunately maybe even in their family that are involved in any of these groups, that they come forward and provide us with the information. And the robbery section can be reached at 510-238-3326.
Time for 2 more questions.
Are you able to talk about the homicide yesterday, just any other details that have come up in the investigation? For example, a resident mentioned that it sounded like a shootout. So I guess the questions are, do you know if the victim fired back during this incident? And also, do you have any more information as to what kind of operation was running? Some residents also said it was known to be some sort of cannabis cultivation operation.
We're investigating whether or not it was a cannabis cultivation operation and whether or not it was legal or illegal. We are investigating whether or not there was more than one shooter. We know that there was at least one firearm recovered on scene that we'll be processing. That's pretty much all that I can have. We have a number of viable leads that we're going to run down, and so we ask that you all are patient, as well as the family is patient, and allow us to allow this investigation to take its course.
So you're talking about yesterday's incident?
The question was about yesterday's incident, yes.
Okay.
All right. We'll wrap there. Thank you guys so much for coming. Appreciate you.
Is there anyone that ever comes from Spanish or after? Or?
Yes. We can do that at a time.
Yeah. I don't speak Spanish. You got it.